everyone. So how was your paper? I hope you have done well. Paper was not very tough. Kuch questions थे which were little confusing, and if you have left them, then that is the best thing you have done. So today we'll quickly see what are the answers and why are these specific answers which I am giving you. Detailed questions we will give you after few days. So all the answers which we are giving you today, I can tell you they are checked and authentic and the most appropriate answers. So let's start with it. First, a patient has just delivered a full-term baby and she has developed a uterine inversion with placenta still attached. So a lot of questions on obstetric emergencies are being asked. Last time cord prolapse was asked. Now this time uterine inversion has been asked. So obstetric emergencies are very important. So uterine inversion हो गया है with placenta attached. Generally placenta attached ही होती है जब uterine inversion होता है. So what is the management? Your management depends on how quick you are. It is an emergency with 15% mortality if you do not manage it quickly. So what is the first step? हर emergency का first step होता है ask for help if it is there. हर obstetric emergency का. After that, your first step in management of uterine inversion is reposit the uterus. Then and there. Yes, in the labor room only. You do not have to shift the patient to the OT at the first go because you have to immediately reposit the uterus. Do not try detaching the placenta. Okay, it will cause hemorrhage. So with an attached placenta, reposit using your hand. Called as Johnson method. So ये आपको करना होता है in the labor room. That is clearly given by the FOXI, our Indian guidelines 2023 में लिखा है कि in the labor room. Now if you are not able to reposit, next step is shift the patient to OT and try repositing under anesthesia because anesthesia will relax the uterus. Then you will try again. So the answer here is remove the placenta definitely. ये तो करना ही नहीं है. Reposition of the uterus, shift to OT, start oxytocin. So reposition of the uterus is your answer. Shift to OT only when the first step is not working. Oxytocin कभी start नहीं करेंगे. If reposition is not happening rightly, then you will start a uterine relaxant. You want the uterus to relax so that it can be reposited. You will not start oxytocin. So this is your answer. Next, woman comes in labor at 39 weeks. Okay, she is term. Cervix is 70% effaced, 3 cm dilated. So she is in early labor, that we know. Bag of worms is filled. So what is bag of worms? आपको it means उसकी membranes अभी rupture नहीं हुई है. Through the membranes, sorry for all this. So through the membranes you can feel bag of worms. It means she has cord presentation. It's not prolapse. Prolapse will be called जब आपकी membranes rupture हो गई हैं and the cords are coming out of the beyond the head of the baby. So this is cord presentation. We have already discussed in our video how to manage cord presentation. Cord presentation is again an emergency. In case membranes will rupture, cord prolapse will happen, baby can die in minutes. So first thing, you will never rupture the cord. So rupturing the membrane and confirm ये तो blunder हो जाएगा. Patient will sue you for this. So this is you don't have to do. You have to immediately deliver the baby because membrane can rupture anytime. She is clearly in labor. Membrane can rupture anytime. Your main aim is deliver the baby. Now she is 3 cm. She is not very close to vaginal delivery. So what will help for immediate delivery? Emergency LSCS. So emergency LSCS will quickly deliver the baby safely. And that is your aim. You will not wait for spontaneous delivery because in spontaneous delivery membranes will rupture, cord prolapse will happen. Pushing the cord, that we have discussed in last video also. Pushing the cord is not done because if you will try to push the cord even in cord prolapse, you will stimulate the cord. उससे उसको और vasospasm होगा. You will harm the baby more. So you will never push the cord. Okay. So your answer is emergency LSCS. Deliver the baby before membrane ruptures. Check. Next, a pregnant woman comes with 30 weeks pregnancy with bleeding PV. Now bleeding PV है तो ठीक है, antepartum hemorrhage है. Now what is the cause? Uterine tone is increased. Uterus is 34 weeks. So uterus का size ज़्यादा है, tone increase and blood pressure है. So you all are smart enough. What is the case? It is a case of abruption. Clear. High blood pressure with abruption. Now see how advanced she is in labor. Her cervix is 6 cm dilated and effacement is also okay, 60% effaced. But see, the vertex is high. So vertex is very high. It is -3. So again, if this is a case of abruption with high blood pressure, what do you want? She can anytime go into eclampsia. Is this true? So what is the management of eclampsia also? You have to deliver the baby. Delivery is the treatment of preeclampsia, isn't it? Delivery is something which you have to do to control the blood pressure in preeclampsia. Also, it is a case of abruption which can lead to sudden IUD. So, if the fetal heart is normal, you have to immediately deliver the baby. So, there are gradings of placenta, gradings of abruption. If the fetal heart is normal, your main aim is deliver it as soon as possible. Now, though the cervix is 6 centimeter, it's a good cervix, good dilation, head is high. This lady will take time to deliver because head is high. If the head would have been at +2 or +3, it means it is imminent delivery. जो होने वाली है, then you would have waited for spontaneous delivery. You would have started oxytocin, but not here. Here you have to do the emergency LSCS if the baby heart rate is good. So I don't know what was the fetal heart given here. If the fetal heart was present, the answer has to be emergency LSCS. She is not going to deliver soon. But in case the fetal heart was absent, that is given, it means it is severe abruption. Fetal heart absent IUD is severe abruption. She is 6 centimeter. You will not do cesarean for a dead baby unless her vitals start deteriorating. If her vitals start deteriorating, she starts bleeding because there is risk of DIC, then you do emergency LSCS. Otherwise, her vitals are okay, she is not into hemorrhage, then answer will be antihypertensive plus ARM. Because ARM करने से, it is a method of induction of labor. So by doing ARM, you will just make her progress into labor further. So if FH is present, answer is LSCS. FH is absent, answer is B. Correct? A young girl, now this is a good question. A young girl comes with menstrual irregularity. I think PCOD was given, right? Acne and increased hair growth with Ferryman-Galway score of 6. So Ferryman-Galway score क्या होता है? We have taught you in hirsutism also that hirsutism is increased hair growth. So how patient perceives it, it is very objective thing. Patient को लग सकता है थोड़ी सी hair growth है that I have too much hair growth. So it is to make it subjective, you to see whether the hair growth is actually excessive or not. This score was developed. Ferryman-Galway score क्या करता है? वो आपकी body में certain areas को specify करता है and see how many hair are there. It doesn't count. It just see how thick hair growth is there, and it gives you a score. Score of more than 8 is called as hirsutism. Score of more than 8 is hirsutism. More than 9 is severe hirsutism. Score 6. She might feel she has high hair growth, but actually it is not hirsutism. Okay. So what problems she has? She has high BMI. She has PCOS. I think that was given in question. She has menstrual irregularity. She has acne. So definitely she needs treatment. But her score is 6. She is not hirsute. She does not need particularly treatment for hirsutism. So the question was, which of the following will not be recommended? First thing in every PCOS, besides she is obese, is lifestyle. Lifestyle is the first thing which you will advise to every PCOS patient. Second, will you counsel her for metabolic syndrome? Definitely. She is so obese, you will counsel her for metabolic syndrome. Definitely. The questions make confusion was OCP with androgens and without anti-androgens. She is a young girl. Her Ferryman-Galway score is less. You will give her OCPs. You know, it is very clearly given in your reference book that if the patient has hirsutism, your first step is, your first treatment, if you open the book, you will see the first treatment is ask her to reduce weight. 20% of time her symptoms, all symptoms will resolve. Then next is OCP. 70% of patients respond to OCPs. Hirsutism patients. So her acne will be taken care of, her menstrual irregularity will be taken care of, her hirsutism, if it is there, if she feels like, will be taken care of in 70% patients. In case she is not, her hirsutism is not getting resolved, you will start with anti-androgens. You will not straight away start with anti-androgens in a young girl. Why? Because in case she misses her OCP, in case she becomes pregnant, there are high chances that her anti-androgens will affect her fetus. So when anti-androgens are given in a young woman, you need good counseling that you cannot become pregnant. So you just don't start away with anti-androgens. The first option is always OCPs. So in case, I will not say this OCP and anti-androgens agar koi de raha hai doctor, to it will be a wrong treatment. It is not a wrong treatment. But among the options which are so close and you are asked, which is not recommended, this B option is the best one. It is not the wrong one, but it is best. OCPs देनी है, लाइफस्टाइल मॉडिफिकेशन करना है, मेटाबॉलिक सिंड्रोम के लिए भी काउंसिल करना है. Anti-androgens can be started later. Her score is very less. She is not hirsute. Okay, so this is the answer. Which is the answer? B. Now, which of the following infection is least teratogenic? So, TORCH group of infections are the teratogenic group of infections. We have discussed this multiple times. Which is the most common teratogenic virus? CMV. This was the question asked last year. CMV is the most common. Most teratogenic? Rubella. If a patient gets rubella, 50% of transmission risk hota hai. 50% of fetus will get rubella. And among all the fetuses who get rubella, 90% will have congenital anomalies. That is why it is the only infection where you advise patient for the termination of pregnancy. You advise her. So rubella is the highest teratogenic potential. CMV ka teratogenic potential overall is 30 to 50%. It increases with the trimester, but overall it is 30 to 50%. Least teratogenic है दोनों, herpes and varicella. Varicella is only 2% transmission risk and herpes is only 1%. Herpes सबसे ज़्यादा transmission कब होता है? During perinatal period. Around delivery, herpes will be transmitted. When the baby is undergoing vaginal delivery, the baby will come in contact with the fluid and then it will catch herpes. So it will not produce teratogenesis. It will cause that meningitis and that disseminated herpes, which is very dangerous for baby. Teratogenesis will occur in antenatal period. The risk is only 1%. So the answer is herpes. A female patient taking DMPA, DMPA ले रही है, came 14 days after her due date. What should be advised? So this is something which you have to know. अगर patient DMPA लेती है तो हम उसको कितने दिन बाद re-injection देते हैं? After 3 months, right? That you know, 3 months बाद. What is the grace period which is allowed to her? That has been told to you in videos also. So according to CDC, she can delay her injection, miss her injection by 15 days. If she is within that 15 days, you give her repeat injection without doing UPT, without giving additional protection. But according to WHO, it is actually 30 days. But if it asked, अगर वैसे ये question was straightforward, इसमें कोई confusion ही नहीं था. अगर पूछा जाएगा हम कौन सा follow करेंगे, we follow CDC. In contraception, we follow CDC. So within 15 days, if she is coming to you, you give her repeat injection. So your answer will be give her DMPA with no backup. Suppose वो 15 days के बाद आती है फिर, if she is sure that she is not pregnant, you will give her DMPA, but you will ask her to use additional protection for 7 days. In case she comes after 15 days. Okay? But here the answer is D. Next, Gravida 6, Para 2, A3, Live 1. She has one live baby, comes for emergency LSCS. She has history of 2 classical cesarean and 3 suction evacuation. What all risk features we will counsel her about? So definitely it's a risky LSCS. She has been operated twice, so she has a lot of risk. As such, A, B, C, D, सारे risk you will explain her. She has risk of all of them. But you are asked which of these you will not counsel. It means which of these will be least common. Will she need blood transfusion? Definitely she can need blood transfusion because she had history of 2 classical cesarean. There might be a lot of adhesions. She can definitely go into PPH. It's a risk factor for PPH. Chances of bladder injury are very high, especially with PAS. PAS क्या होता है? Placenta accreta symptoms. Means placenta accreta and creta, all these are included. So definitely इसमें हो सकता है because she has 2 classical cesarean and most common site कहाँ जाता है? Into the bladder. She has very high risk of bladder injury. She has risk of peripartum hysterectomy because of PAS. There are high chances that her placenta might be adhered or accreta might be there. In that case, she will need hysterectomy. Least chances are of bowel injury. Bowel injury में adhesions होने के chances बहुत कम है and this will be your answer. As such, you will explain her, but if asked among these 4, best is B. 13-year-old girl come to OPD with her mother with pain abdomen. So she is 13 years old. USG shows she is 8 weeks pregnant. So what will be your first step? To answering this question, you need to know what is the age of consent for sexual activity in our country. So in our country, it is 18 years. Previously, it was 16, but now it is 18 years for consent for the sexual activity. If you are having, even with consent, sexual relation with a girl who is less than 18, it is considered rape. ठीक है? Age of the boy doesn't matter. whatever the age is, having sexual activity with a girl less than 18 is rape. Consent is not needed. She is not allowed to have consent. So is it a case of rape? It is. Will you report to the police? Yes, you will report to the police. So first step will be make MLC inform police. Even if patient says don't inform the police, जैसा movies में दिखाते हैं, it is not done. As a doctor, you have to inform the police. Okay, this is your duty. MTP, obviously that patient will decide. It doesn't need to be the first step. Take consent of mother for examination. Yes, if she agrees. So first step is inform police. Now if they agree for rape kit examination, then you might need the consent for mother. As such, just for information, age of consent in our country is, so as such, for your information, the age of consent is 12 years. 12 years का बच्चा can give consent for examination. Examination की consent वो बच्चा दे सकता है. जरूरत नहीं है कि उसके parents consent दे. But for treatment, 18 years is the age. 18 years से छोटा बच्चा अपने treatment की consent नहीं दे सकता. So it is too much of information for you. 13-year-old girl, it is a case of rape. You will first inform the police. If they agree for examination, first thing is preserve clothing. जब भी rape kit का examination start करते हैं, सबसे पहले you preserve the clothing. If she is wearing the same clothes which she was wearing that time. Now, next question. Which of the following is a virilizing ovarian tumor? I think that was very easy. You know, there are certain hormone secreting tumors which are called as areноblastoma. कौन से tumors को areноblastoma कहते हैं? Sertoli and Leydig cell tumors को. Isn't it? So they are androgen secreting tumors. So this is basically you have to know. So ovarian tumors broadly तीन तरह के होते हैं, epithelial, germ cell. ये दोनों hormone secrete नहीं करते हैं. ठीक है? So Brenner tumor is gone, which is a type of epithelial tumor. Carcinoid is also gone. Areноblastoma and theca cell tumor are left. These are epithelial, germ cell and stromal tumors. Ovarian stromal tumors. Now stromal tumors secrete hormones. तो stromal tumors में category है granulosa cell, which secrete basically estrogen. Granulosa cell are high estrogen secreting tumors. दूसरा आता है thecoma fibroma. Thecoma fibroma कोई hormone secrete नहीं करते. They are like fibroids only. दूसरा आता है Sertoli and Leydig cell tumors, which secrete androgens. And the another name for Sertoli Leydig cell are arenoblastomas. So this is your answer. ठीक है? Theca cell tumors will not secrete any hormones. So there was a histopathology slide of a tumor was given and there was mentioned Renki crystals. It is very easy. This is something which is fact based, which आपको रखना ही पड़ेगा. So Leydig cell tumors have very characteristic Renki crystals. ठीक है? There are certain pathognomic features on histopathology of every tumor. जैसे कि Sertoli cell is Samuma cells. You have to know that Samuma cells are present in Sertoli cells. Call-Exner bodies are present in granulosa cell tumors. Right? Renki crystals are characteristic of Leydig cell tumors. They can also be present in testis. Anything androgen producing, which produce androgens, will have Renki crystals. Right? Then a pap smear slide was given, I hope. And which stain is used? It is again very easy. For pap smear, you use Papen-Claw stain. Okay. Now, some people are confusing why not HNE. See, Papen-Claw stain is a polychromatic stain, which use multiple other stains, mainly 3 types. So Papen-Claw staining is a process which use 3 stains. जिसमें आता है hematozylin. First is hematozylin, not HNE. Hematozylin for staining the nucleus. Then an orange dye is used. So these stains are not important. Hematozylin is a part, but it is just a part. The main stain used for pap smear is Papen-Claw stain. Another question which you have to know, which has been asked previously, what is a fixative? So when you make a smear, you use 95% ethanol for fixation. Okay, you can maximum dip the slide into ethanol for 3 days. After 3 days, वो staining खराब कर देगा. So you can just let it dip. Then you send it into the pathology in that fixative. There they use Papen-Claw stain to stain that smear. So this is your answer. Which of the following antigen? Again a very repeat question. E6, E7. We know that. I think 3rd time it has been asked. Now, what is the reason of change in blood volume just before parturition? Next question was ovarian branch of uterine artery anastomosed with which artery? So this was a little weird question, but इसके लिए आपको anastomosis of ovary पता होना चाहिए. Why it is important? Because when you do hysterectomy and you are ligating the ovarian ligament, you have to know which bleeding vessels you are ligating. आप किसको ligate कर रहे हो? Which vessels you are securing? You are actually securing the ovarian branch of uterine artery and the ovarian artery. Ovarian artery and the ovarian branch of uterine artery, the anastomose at the ovarian ligament. So ovarian artery is actually किसकी branch होती है? Aorta की. It's a direct branch of aorta, isn't it? So you need to know this anastomosis. From aorta comes your ovarian artery. Here from uterine artery comes the ovarian branch, and they both anastomose. If you don't clamp them nicely, they can bleed profusely. Then another one was uterine artery. No, uterine branch of ovarian artery was there. So uterine ovarian artery anastomose with uterine branch, ovarian branch of uterine artery. Why not arcuate artery? Arcuate artery कौन सी artery होती है? Arcuate arteries are again branch of uterine arteries which go inside the uterus. ये आपकी uterine artery होती है which ascends onto the uterus and they send arcuate arteries inside to the endometrium. So arcuate artery has nothing to do with ovarian artery. Round ligament artery. Round ligament artery is a branch of inferior epigastric. It is also called as Simpson's artery. It also anastomose here only, but it's a very insignificant artery. So इसका anastomosis is not important clinically. Okay, it's a very insignificant branch. The main anastomosis is of these two. Okay, so this is your answer, ovarian artery. Next, a patient has been diagnosed with ovarian cancer with peritoneal metastasis. So it was given that omental cake means significant peritoneal metastasis is there. What will be the management? So if peritoneal mets are there, abdominal metastasis is there, what is the stage? Stage 3. Now 3A, 3B, it depends on the size. कि भाई 2 centimeter से कम है या ज़्यादा, but it is stage 3. What will be your treatment? Debulking surgery करना ही है. You always try to remove as much ovarian tumor as you can, because फिर जो आप कीमोथेरेपी दोगे that will be very effective. So debulking is must, और debulking का मतलब क्या होता है? Reduce the tissue to less than 1 centimeter. So debulking with chemo. Radiotherapy is not for ovarian tumor, epithelial. Debulking surgery with chemo is the treatment for ovarian epithelial tumor. Chemo alone नहीं, हमेशा debulking करके देते हैं, because जितना भी ovarian mass है उसको निकालेंगे, then only chemo can act effectively. Radiotherapy is not given in ovarian tumor. It's a radiotherapy is actually given in endometrial carcinoma. Staging laparotomy. So staging laparotomy के लिए कर सकते हैं, वो भी ovarian tumor का ही treatment है. Staging laparotomy means आपने एक vertical incision लगा के abdomen को खोला है, सारे samples लिए हैं, uterus हटाया है, ovary हटाया है, you have taken a cytic sample, omental sample to stage the tumor. आपको जब stage करना होगा तब आप staging laparotomy करके सारी sampling करोगे. When there is micrometastasis, जब आपको दिख नहीं रहा है, आपको किसी investigation में metastasis नहीं दिख रहा है, you know कि ovarian tumor तो है, then you do staging laparotomy to see where all it has spread. But if you have seen that metastasis is there, it is clinically palpable, or it is seen on investigation, your stage is decided, then your answer is this, debulking surgery and chemo. अगर सिर्फ ovarian tumor होता तो हम क्या करते? तो हम staging laparotomy करते. हम जानना चाहते कि कौन सी stage में ovarian tumor है. But here we are very clear. It is given peritoneal metastasis, isn't it? So this is your answer, A. Which of the following is risk factor for progression of borderline ovarian tumor? Now, this is a little confusing question. बहुत close भी नहीं कहेंगे, but like not very evident options are there. If you have left it, totally okay. Exclusion say you can take out the answer. So what is the risk of borderline ovarian tumor? In toto, the risk of borderline ovarian tumor or the ovarian tumor per se is same. Okay. OCP intake, no. We all know कि OCP are protective in ovarian cancer. Multiparity? No. Nulliparity. People who are nulliparous, who do not breastfeed, they are at risk of ovarian cancer. Functional ovarian cyst is completely benign. It has no risk of progression to ovarian tumor. That is why we don't even remove the functional ovarian cyst. PCOS as such has not been directly described to cause ovarian tumor. But anything, it has been seen when your estrogen levels are high, unopposed estrogen, when it is not backed up by progesterone, it increases the risk of endometrial cancer and also ovarian cancer. So in many cases it has been seen that patients who are PCOS, there is double the risk of ovarian tumors. So this is your answer. Okay, but if you have left it because you might have thought कि कोई भी ovarian cancer का risk नहीं है, it is okay. It's a better choice in fact. So I think I have covered all the questions. If any question is missed, please just let me know. If any option was not correct, just let me know. I will love to answer. But that's all about this question. Now take a good rest, watch a good movie. Jaisa ho gaya hai, I hope that has happened good for you. Okay, so don't worry now. Just relax and don't think about anything now. It's your time to have a little fun in your life. So go ahead with it. Thank you. Bye bye.